Hello and welcome to the editing video for Film Camp. In this video, we'll be going over Premiere and how to use it to edit your final videos. When you first open up Premiere, you'll open up to this window right here, which is the Premiere homepage. It has any recent films that you've worked on, so any editing projects that you have open currently, and you can create a new project or open a project. For right now, I'm going to go over how to create a new project, but I will be using the instructor film to do all of our editing. To create a new project, you click on New Project, then you name it, so you can name it whatever you'd like. Then you choose where you want it to save. So you can click Browse. It'll default to your documents and try to save in the Adobe folder, but you can move it to anywhere, and you really want to save all of your files in one place. So how I have Film Camp, this is the whole instructor film, and in there I have assets, which is songs, noises, and other things that you use in the film, as well as footage, which will have all of the footage that you use in your film. You really want to have it in one project or in one folder because Premiere references to these things. So you want to save the project in the same folder that you have all of your footage and all of your assets. That way, it all stays together as one nice little package, and whenever you need to edit it, you just go to that folder. Once you've chose where to save it, you can ignore the rest of these settings. If you have some sort of reason to look into them, you can, but you do not need to mess with these. The default is normally what works. Then, once you're done with all that, you just click OK, and you're done making the project. I already have a project made. This is the instructor film, and you can see right here, this is the final cut. Now, you can also see there's a lot going on here, and your windows might not look exactly like mine. That's because there's all of these different presets available. So there's presets for color, editing, effects, audio, graphics, and those normally require different windows if you're trying to work with them. I'm in the editing window, so make sure you click on that as well. Now you can do most of the editing from this layout right here. You don't really need the other layouts because you can always just go to this window and bring up anything you need. It's good to know that there's these other presets here that you can test out if you want to use something. Now let's go through the different windows that we have going on here. I want to start in this bottom left, which is the project folder. So this is where everything from the project will be stored. So you can see we've imported our assets, we've imported our footage, and we have all these different scenes made, and then as well as these. There's a couple things I want to outline when you're working in this project folder. There's all these buttons down here, so you can make new bins, which is the Premiere equivalent of a folder. They just don't call it folders, they call them bins. As well as you can make new items and delete items. But the main thing that you'll be doing down here is you can switch between icon and list view. So if you prefer an icon, you have this icon view where you can scrub through the videos, or you can go to list view, which allows you to see more at once and twirl down the things. Now, whether or not you're in icon or list view, when you double click on one of these folders or bins, it will open up a new window. So now I'm in bin footage, and if I want to close that, I click Close Panel. As well as here's a Scene 6 bin. I can also close that. So it's helpful because you can double click to get further into things. And then in the different bins, you can have different views. So in my regular project one, I like to have list view, but then in my bins, I like to have icons so that I can scrub through the footage. Now, let's move on over to the timeline. This is the big bar right here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. But this shows you your actual film. So all of the different camera footage that you have put on here will show up on this timeline. So the timeline is where you'll be doing all of your editing. You'll have all of your clips here as well as your audio, and you can scrub through, and in this window on the top right, it shows you what is playing in the actual film. So if I click in different parts, you'll see different frames from our actual film. Now, what are these things right here? Well, these are the different scenes that we can see. This is scene 5, as you can see, and then this is the final cut altogether. These are what Premiere calls sequences. So sequences are just a sequence of image and sound. That's why they're called that. But they're used to merge together or different video clips to make a full video. Now, to make these, let's first close these ones. And then all you have to do is go File, New, Sequence. This is one way, and this allows you to choose all the settings. You can choose some presets, or you can go in and set the settings to whatever you want. I'm going to cancel on this because I don't need this. Because a better way to make your sequences is you can go into your footage and just drag any clip onto the timeline. And it says drop media here to create a sequence. It drops it there, and then it places that video clip in there. It also makes the sequence an item within the bin that it was in. So here's the one that I dragged onto the timeline, and then here's our new sequence. So let's rename this. We can go rename, and let's name this new sequence. Now we just have this so that we can recognize which one is the one that I made. But we can drag it over, and let's put it in just the general project folder, just so that I have all my sequences in one spot and then all my footage in another, because sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between one and the other. They only have small icon differences. Now, when you're working with footage inside of the timeline, there's a lot of tools that you can use, and you can see them right here. I'll only be showing you a couple of them, but feel free to explore them and use them however you see fit. The first tool is just the selection tool, and you can use this most of the time, but you can use this to drag the end of clips and make them shorter. So then you can cut off excess footage. So let's say that we only wanted to get the part of Michael running from the door, because I knock on the door, and then over to hide. So we don't want that walking away portion. So let's back up, and then let's cut to here, and then let's back up to when Michael starts running for the door. This is a good spot, and then let's cut here. Whoops. And there you go. Now we've shortened down this clip so that it's just the part that we want. And now we could move this into our sequence or into our film and put clips on the other sides of it. The next tool I want to show you is the razor tool. It's also used for cutting up clips into smaller clips, but with this tool you can cut anywhere in here. So you just go to where you want to cut and you click, and then it makes a cut in there. If you have multiple clips, so I just dragged in this audio asset, but if I have multiple clips, and let's say I want to cut across all the way, not just here, but also cut this audio. If you hold shift, it'll cut the whole timeline in that spot. So I go click, and there you go. I cut through the video and the audio on both tracks. I'm going to undo all of this so that it's not on my timeline. The next one I want to show you is beneath this third one, and it's called the rate stretch tool. This tool is cool because it allows you to speed up or slow down certain clips. So if I wanted this to not be shorter but to actually go faster, I want Michael to run faster, I can grab it and speed it up. Then this whole sequence, if I play it, will happen a little bit faster. So you saw Michael run up that speed. Let's speed it up even more and see the difference. Notice that speeding up does increase the pitch of the sound, so you can tell when things have been sped up by listening to it. The other way you can do this is right click and click speed and duration. This window allows you to change the speed by percent or by duration. So if you want it to be 5 seconds long, you can make it and it'll speed it up so that it's 5 seconds long. If you want it to be at 200% speed, you can do that. 100% speed is the default. That is what it normally plays at. You can also reverse the speed and try to maintain audio pitch and then ripple editing. Once you set it to whatever you want, you just click OK, and now that'll apply the effects to the clip. The last thing I want to show you is how this layered system works. So whatever is on the very, very top, so the highest V track, there's V1, V2, V3, whichever one is on the highest track, that is the one that's going to be seen. So if I go back to my bin and I just grab some more footage and put it on top, I'm going to see this clip, not this one. And I can prove it by hiding this track, and you'll see it change. Now, when there's nothing shown, I've hidden this track and there's nothing below it, the screen shows black. That's just the default background. So if you don't want it, you want white or something, you'll have to put an image right here of white behind your track. Additionally, the last thing I wanted to show you, I've showed you how to toggle the hiding button, but I also want to show you how to toggle the lock. If you lock something, it won't allow you to edit it. That way, when you're doing those whole timeline cuts, when you hold shift with the razor tool, it won't cut that clip because that clip is locked. Now, I'm going to unlock this and delete this clip. The next thing I want to go into is how do you control the effects? How do you control where this is inside of the frame? Well, let's click on it, and we see all this information in the top left pop-up. This is the effects control. This gives us motion, opacity, time remapping, and then for audio it gives us volume, channel volume, and then panner. Now with this we can move the position of the clip, so we can move it to the right, move it up or down, and it's really easy to use these controls because you just click and drag. Additionally, you can change the scale, make it bigger or smaller. You can also unlock uniform scale so that you can change it by the different height and width, but if you leave it, then it'll stay the normal proportions and nothing will look stretched. You can rotate the clip so that it's at an angle. You can change the anchor point, which will change the way it moves. You can change the opacity, so how much you can see through it. And then you can change the time remapping, which is how fast it plays, which we were kind of playing with in the timeline already. The other thing I want to show you up in these effects controls is keyframing. So you'll notice that this little dot popped up when I was playing with some controls over here. Let's go ahead and delete that. But the way this works is this is the full clip right here. I drag my little marker all the way to the left, and I'm at the leftmost of this clip. If I drag it all the way to the right, I'm off the clip, and I have to press 1 back to get onto the clip. And then all this is the frames in between, and you can zoom in to take a look at things more specifically. But what you can do is you can set points for the video to change. So let's say between here and here, I wanted the opacity to go down. All I'd have to do is put a point here, and that's the starting point, and it's going to be at 100% opacity. Then I scrub a little further, and let's change it to 0. Now in between these 2 points, it's going to move from 100% opacity to 0. And by this point, it'll be at 0, and by this point, it'll be at 100%. We can also put frames in between. So let's say I wanted it to go down, but then I wanted it to come back up over here. Well, we just bring it all the way back up, and it'll come back up. It'll go down and then come back up all the way to 92%. Now you can keyframe any of these different settings. Let's say I want it to move. I just toggle the animation, which is toggling the keyframe, and it puts this keyframe right here. Then I go down a little further. Let's say I want it to go here and then up here. So now between these 2 points, it'll slowly move to that location. Now that you've learned 3 different windows so far, I want to go over how we're actually watching the different video. So over here, this is the program, and this shows us what is on our sequence. And we have our new sequence here, and it shows us this is what we've edited so far. Now, there's another way to look at videos, and it's called the source monitor. If I double click on this, it opens the clip, the original clip from in the bins, into the source monitor. The source monitor allows us to scrub through the full clip, so we know that we've cut off most of this already. But we can still zoom out and we can see this is the clip right here. This part right here is the part that we have on the timeline. The rest of this is just other footage that we have. When you have in and out points put in the source monitor, you can use that to grab the actual video and audio and just drag it. So I have the very same clip here because I have the same in and out point selected. Let's go to a different clip. Let's open up this one, and it opens into the source monitor by just double clicking. And I can go through and I can just say, I just want George doing this menacing look. So let's just get a clip, an in point there. I can do that by clicking that or clicking I on the keyboard. And then I can go to here and click out. And let's say I just want the video. I could drag here and just grab the video. Or if I just want the audio, I could drag here and just grab the audio. Or I can drag here and grab both of them. I'm going to grab both of them. Now I have this part in my actual sequence, so this can start to be edited into my film. The last thing I really want to show you in the source monitor is that there's a lot more buttons. So if you click this plus, there's a lot more buttons in here that you can explore. But there's this really nice one, which is export frame. So if you really like this image right here, you can click this and it'll export it at the resolution that frame was shot in. So you can choose what type you want to save it in and then browse. And then you can also import it into the project if you're planning on using it for your final film. I'm going to click cancel for mine. Now last but not least, I want to show you one more window, which is the effects rack. Now it's in this bottom left, same with the project folder, but if you use your scroll wheel or you click these two little arrows, you can find the effects window. In here are all the different types of effects that you have for your film. There's audio effects, audio transitions, video effects, and video transitions. For video transitions, most of the time when you're editing kind of simple videos, you just want dissolves, simple in and outs that aren't too distracting. You normally don't want any page peeling or stuff like that. For our film, actually, we didn't have really any dissolves. We had a dip to black at the end and an additive dissolve at the beginning, but in the middle, most of the time you just do cuts. After video transitions, there's the video effects. And there's a lot of these. I'm not going to go through all of them because there's a lot of different stuff that you can do, but there are a couple that I want to highlight. The first I want to show you is color correction. So in the color correction folder, there's one that's called Lumetri Color. You can grab this and drag it onto any of your clips, so any of your video clips. This video effect will not apply to audio. But if you drag it on there and you go to your effects controls, with this clip selected, you can see the Lumetri Color has been added. And this adds a lot of basic color correction as well as more advanced color correction that you can do to your clips. So watching the clip in the right, I can do this. I can bring down the exposure, or I can change the white balance. So I have the white balance selector, and let's say that I know that in real life this door was white. I can click it and it'll change the whole temperature and tint to make sure that this is true white. If this is true white, then theoretically everything else is colored the way that we see it in real life. That's not always the case, and sometimes you want to do your own edits in here, but this Lumetri Color effect gives you the ability to do so. Note that you can also keyframe all of these different effects, all of the temperature, tint, exposure. So if you wanted to do something different with the color, you can do so using this keyframes. The next effect I want to show you is a transform. So down here, there's the crop. All you have to do is drag it onto here. And what this does is allow you to crop part of the frame. So if you want part of it out of the frame, you just grab it and drag it. And now it's taking that much percent off of it. You can do the same on the top and the right and the other side. This allows us to do cool effects, and in our film, it allows us to see both Michael and George at the same time by using the crop effect to move what is visible in the frame. If we go over to that scene, so we can go into that, and it's scene 2. Let's open it up. We can see that on the entering of the apartment, on this top clip, there's keyframes for the left side of the film. And what it's doing is moving a line across the film of what is visible, which allows both Michael and George to be in the same frame when we know that they are the same person. So they couldn't possibly be in the same frame. What it really is these two different takes of it, and it allowed us to crop off part of it so that Michael was still video once we put this on top. For example, if I hide this bottom video, you can see how much it's cropped, and you can see that crop line move across as it follows Michael off of the screen. So that's how we use the crop tool in our film. You can find many other ways to use it and to do cool things with it. Going back to the effects rack, what we're going to move on to next is audio transitions. Now there's only one folder in this, and it's just because there's those 3 different transitions. There's constant gain, which is a slow pickup. There's constant power, which makes sure that in between 2 clips, if we had these 2 clips together, it'll keep a constant power between the 2 of them. And then there's exponential fade, which can be put on the end to slowly fade out. After the transitions, you can move on to the audio effects. There's a lot going on in here too, but there's only a few that I want to go over. In amplitude and compression, multi-band and single-band compressors are nice to put on audio to just make it sound more clear. It's very helpful, and it gives you some mastering tools that you can do to edit your audio. Sometimes you find that there's noise or background stuff going in on your audio tracks. So what you can do is go over to this noise reduction, and there's all these different options. Automatic click remover removes the ticking or clicking of a clock in the background. De-hummer will get rid of humming noises, so like a constant light fan going. A heavy fan or something like an air conditioner would be better removed with a denoiser, because the denoiser is a little bit more overbearing and kind of attacks the audio more aggressively. Then there's also the de-reverb. So sometimes you find yourself filming in places that are very echoey, and the de-reverb gets rid of that reverberation of the sound. Again, there's many different types of audio effects in here. There's even reverb that you can add reverb to a thing. So if you want to play around with those, feel free to, but I've gone over the ones that we use in this film, so you have the tools to actually edit your own film. Now that we've kind of gone over all of the pieces of Premiere, I actually want to go through and just edit one sequence with you. So I'm going to clear our current sequence, and we're going to go into our footage, and we're going to go to the first scene, scene 1, and we're going to edit this into one clip. And just to kind of show you what one full scene would look like when you're trying to edit. When I go to start editing, I like to do it in a process. First, I edit a scene, and I edit just a rough cut of it. I just cut all the pieces of it together, and then I call that a rough cut. After that, I go through and add in any special effects, background noises, stuff like that, transitions, and I'll add that in a second round of editing. Once I finish the second round of editing, then I give it one good watch through, and that is normally the version that I accept unless there's any changes that I need to make. So let's go through and make a rough cut of this. All I do is I find the beginning of when I want the clip to start. I think I want it to start somewhere around here. And then I scroll through to when I want it to end. Right there looks about good. And I grab it. And that one clip is edited. Now I go to this next clip. I find where I want it to start. So I want it to be George walking up, but I want him off frame completely. And I cut this. Then I watch them come up and off the frame, and then I cut that. I'm going to use the C tool or use the C on my keyboard to change to the razor tool, and then V to change back to the selection tool, and bring that off. I want to use the C tool because I don't know what else is left in this footage, and there's a lot left. So let's scrub through it. So that was all just me moving the camera. I know that now, so I can delete that because we don't need it. Now let's zoom in and let's look at this next clip. So this is a clip, but I know that my first take didn't work out. So I know that there's another take here of George saying the exact same line. So let's delete this one and move on. So here's the clip of Michael responding to George and then walking away. So let's get the start. And we'll back up using the arrow keys until he's no longer speaking. So we'll cut to there. And then let's scroll until he's finished speaking. And I want to keep it going until so that he doesn't look back, because I don't want him looking back to slow the motion of the shot. The next thing is this last clip. So this is George opening the clip and then talking to Michael. So let's back up to when the door is closed, go a couple frames back, and then cut that. And then let's scrub forward until afterwards. And then we can cut there and use the selection tool to move it back. And now we know that George responds, so let's listen to the response. So that was the response right there, the awkward invitation in. Let's back up and catch that reaction. And we can use the arrow keys to move frame by frame until we get right to the action. And we can back up. And we want it right as he reacts. And then we can go till afterwards when he walks out of the frame. And that's good. And let's actually let the door close completely. Actually, that's good. I like the little bounce back. It looks good. So now, all we have to do is put these in order. So first thing I want to show you is that you can delete this space by just clicking on it and click delete. This is the clip of George, so that has to go before the clip of Michael. So boom, boom, and then let's back this all the way up and let's move back to the start. So now we've got all of these clips in sequence. Let's see how they look together without any other edits. So that looked pretty good. I like the way that turned out. So I don't really want to mess with the actual length of the clips anymore. I just want to do more direct edits. First off, I don't want this background noise that is taken with the camera. As good as it is, it does sound like the background noise for a city. I don't want to use the stuff we shot. I'd like this studio produced. So I know that these three are the background noises, so let's just grab one of those. We can cut off all this end stuff and then delete it. Now, to get rid of these audios, I just highlight them, right click, and then unlink. And that unlinks the video from the audio. And then I can just delete them. So now I have this background city noise from this instead of the part from the camera. Next, what I want to do is I want to get rid of the background noise that you can hear behind this. So what do? I go on over to my effects. I find the audio effects. I find the noise reduction. And then I do a denoise. I could try a dehummer because that noise isn't too invasive, but I think the denoise will get rid of it fine. Now it does sound a little bit different, but it doesn't sound necessarily weird as long as we apply the same effect to all the other talking clips. So let's apply it here and here. Now, the only thing we really have to worry about is whether it sounds weird going from no camera audio to camera audio. So let's listen to that. And I think the program did a good job of getting rid of the background noise, so it doesn't sound too noticeable. Now, I've made all the cuts to this sequence, and it looks pretty good. This would be a completed version of scene 1. The only thing I would want to do, if I wanted to, was edit the color a little bit. I do like the natural colors that our cameras use, so I'm going to leave it. But if you wanted to, you could click on this color window over here, and it'd take you on to these same Lumetri color effects that I showed you in the effects controls. And all you have to do is be clicked on a clip, and then you can mess with those. I don't need to do that because, and this is actually the source, not the program that we have down here. I'm going to go back to editing. So now there's just one last thing I'd like to show you, which are graphics. So graphics are something that you can make to add text or background shapes, normally used to change the background color or something. But you just click on graphics, click new layer, and then you can choose whatever you want to make. Then it'll pop up this new text layer, and you can put it on there and edit the fill, stroke, and all of that stuff, as well as vector motion and different motion of the graphic with the effects controls. You can also get better effects graphic controls if you go over to the actual graphics window, and you'll get more stuff for making more graphics. You'll be using graphics mostly in the credits when you're trying to build that ending and put all of the credits through the film. So that's all I have to show you. Make sure you save your project in the same folder and that you save constantly. Premiere is known to crash, so if you aren't saving constantly and your Premiere crashes, you will lose all of those edits. So make sure you're saving as you're going through. Additionally, I strongly urge you to watch the longer editing video. It is a bit long, but if you watch it on double time speed, it does make it a little bit easier, and it shows you all of these things that I've gone through here in much more detail, and it's much easier to follow because we go through the whole editing process. After watching this, you should have a good understanding of how Premiere works though, and you should be ready to go and edit your film. So, email us if you have any questions, and I will see you later.